So welcome everyone to our last Mission 2030 webinar of the year, Engaging Youth in Sport for All and Bridging the Gap, Building the Future. My name is Mannix and I am from Limerick, Ireland, and I work with the Limerick Sports Partnership as the Moyross Sport and Physical Activity Hub Coordinator. And I will be moderating this webinar and panel discussion today. I'm sure that this webinar will serve as an engaging space for yourselves and your organisations to address relevant strategies that sport organisations can adopt to create opportunities for youth to take on leadership roles and be included in decision-making procedures in times where youth engagement is needed. As a reminder, the webinar is recorded and will be posted in the TAFISA YouTube channel and on the website. All of your microphones have been muted by default to ensure a smooth webinar. If you have any questions or comments, you can use the chat box and we will try to answer as best as possible at the end. If you want, you can put your name, organisation and country you are from in the chat box. As we officially kick off the webinar, I would like to introduce the Impulse speaker, Arthur Garrido. Arthur is the co-president of the European Youth Alliance in Sports Field, France. He is a passionate advocate for inclusion, youth empowerment and the social impact of sport across Europe. He currently serves as president of the European Youth Alliance in Sports, where he works to connect youth organisations, universities and European institutions around projects promoting sport for all, human rights and active citizenship. He also serves as co-president of the Sport and Human Rights Committee within the Conference of INGOs of the Council of Europe, contributing to the development of policies and initiatives that promote integrity, equality and dignity in and through sport. Holding a master's degree in sports psychology from the University of Montpellier, his academic work explores how communication and emotional intelligence can enhance well-being and cohesion within teams. Welcome, Arthur, and he is going to speak a little bit about his work and how that connects with the TAFISA Mission 2030.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Thank you. I'm glad to be in front of you all. Let me just share my screen and I will present you what I have to talk to you about. Is it okay for everyone? Is everyone watching my screen now? Okay, fine. Thank you again. So yes, during this impulse, we will try to figure out how can we better engage youth in sports for all. And this impulse is based on my own perspective and own experiences. And yeah, I hope to offer you a kind of new perspective on the issue. And I will speak about my former position at ANESTAPS, which is the national organization in sports curriculum in France, and then my current position, as Tara said, at EYAS. So first of all, about observations. So what did we observe as youth concerning their engagement? The first one is a European difficulty in legislating around sports and therefore having a common direction with the EU competences. As you know, there is 3 types of competencies within the European institution, which are the exclusive competencies, the shared competencies and the supporting competencies. And fortunately, concerning sports and youth, those 2 ones are supporting competencies. So this is kind of a difficulty to have a proper and common direction. Then there is no voice for young people represented within dialogue and decision-making process, except that maybe I thought about ENGSO, which is the European non-governmental sports organization. They have a youth sports within their organization. Except the ENGSO, there is no place for youth to share their voice. So this is a huge observation also. And then there is also no structure per se representing them either. In Europe, it exists in other topics, which I can maybe cite history, medicine, pharmacologists, nurse. They all have, as youth and as students, they all have a European organization and European networks. That's not the case for sports and for students and youth. So after that, what did we have in mind? To counter that, it was the creation of EYAS, so the European Youth Alliance in Sports Fields. And in addition to the creation of EYAS, we wanted to set up a European campaign on the impulse of the European election back in 2024. So EYAS is born out of Franco-Spanish collaboration. So I already mentioned ANESTAPS 2 minutes ago. We had a counterparts in Spain that had the same issue as us. There is no European unification and there is no European vision on that. So both of us shared the same observation. So we create that in 2024 to lead the European dialogue, to defend, carry, and build the unifying voice of youth engaging or studying in sports. And our main purpose was how to better represent young people and help them, getting involved in order to create a unified voice. And this creation was during a press release in the European Parliament back in time. Now that EYAS is created, and once the campaign was set up, we thought about 3 stages for our European campaign. Okay, that's good. We have EYAS, we have the creation of that entity, but nobody is waiting for us and nobody's know us. The institution and the youth still don't know us. So what to do next? We had 3 stages, as I mentioned it. The first one and the first stages of our European campaign and our strategy was writing a position paper directly with the youth that we represented in Spain and in France. The purpose and the aim was clear. We wanted to show them and show the youth people that their opinion matter and are legitimate. That was the main purpose, because there is a major issue nowadays is that the decision-making process is often too distant, too technical, and maybe too professional for the youth, and also rarely explained. So we need more initiative to reach out, and maybe with popular education also, we can, for instance, gather opinions, create opinions, defend own opinions, and reflect on what could be great in this position paper. So this was the first stage. And also the second objective was to break the vicious cycle. If there is no effective youth policies, young people won't be involving and won't be interested in it, and therefore young people do not give their opinion, and there is no youth policy, and this is the whole cycle. So we need youth people to engage in that process, so that policymakers can maybe relate and rely on the youth vision and the youth proposition. Then the second stage was about the press conference, as I mentioned it, in European Parliament with 120 MIPs and youths directly in the Parliament, European Parliament. It was a great day, a great experience, because first of all, this conference allows us to bring youth closer to the institution and maybe a bit demystify them. And also it was the time to talk about as I call it, the policy accountability. If I can explain myself, the elected representative that we are voting for are there to serve youth people and to be connected with them. So it was kind of related to the topic of youth washing. We spoke a lot about youth washing. People and youth feel like during the European election and during key slots before election, there are a lot to engage in youth policies, but after that, the link is a bit lost. So that was the second purpose. And then also we spoke a lot during this press conference about the sense of belonging, to Europe and to their citizenship, European citizenship. We spoke a lot about that, and it allows us to connect to something all together. MIP, policymakers, youth, we were all connected to the same topics and to the same thing, the European citizenship and the European policies. And then the last stage of this strategy was to spreading the position paper from top down with the training session and with the popular education, as I mentioned it, throughout youth network in Spain and in France, but also from bottom up with the creation of EYAS, as I mentioned it. So to give legitimacy and to show the European institution that we are still there and that we are relevant. We have many things to discuss. And after that strategy, we saw that indeed youth people in French and Spanish Spain context they were more dedicated, and the amount of voting people was really high comparing to decades ago. So after that EYAS creation and after that strategy, what do we have to offer now, and what are the challenges? 2 years of existence. So yes, EYAS for now is looking to expand and find other national student federation and meet young people. And I would like to present you some issues, some barriers, and some opportunities that we discussed together with the board. The first thing, and I want to remind this because I think that it is the same thing all across Europe, and for many youth organizations, we still face the same barriers as, for example, cultural and logistical barriers, financial barriers, timetable, time slot to find, to connect. This is the best example that I can give for that is that we reached out Denmark University from Copenhagen. And so we spoke about the national organization, maybe the Sport National Youth Organization in Denmark, and then just told us we don't need that because we are all the curriculum are in the same city. So we don't need a national federation or national organization to spread the news and maybe gather the opinion. We are all in the same city because we are maybe a smaller city than France, so we don't need that. This is just not a need. So this is a huge cultural difference that we have to solve. Also, there is the study arrangements, like taking gap years, splitting its curriculum to have a lot of time to engage. This is possible in French, in France, and in French curriculum. Maybe this is not the case in other countries. So youth people and students, for instance, cannot engage themselves as easier as in France. There is also a lack of knowledge about the associative network around yourself. You feel that you want to engage yourself. You feel that there is something missing in your life, but you don't know where. You don't know where to put energy, and you don't know where to knock to reach some help or to find somewhere to discuss. And the last thing about the barriers that we face around engaging youth and connected Europe with EYAS is the commitment, and especially the recognitions of commitments, which is poorly recognized for now. And also sometimes, yes, just putting away as just the volunteering stuff. You are just a volunteer. So this is your own stuff. This is a personal stuff. I don't want to be involved with that. So yeah, universities and yeah, many institutions don't recognize volunteering as a whole part of their life and as a whole topics, a whole subjects. And that is a huge bar. This is a huge barrier for youth to engage. But fortunately, we have also opportunities. We have the University Alliance, which allows students to connect easier and have support in projects, get mobility, and get opportunities. I can maybe shout out Civis Alliance. EYAS is in partnership with that alliance, especially with the Marseille University, which is close to us. But there is many examples of good practices around University Alliance. This is something to keep and something to know also, because many students still don't know that they are part of a University Alliance. They don't know that. Also, we have the European fundings as Erasmus Plus. I can mention many more, but Erasmus Plus is the most common one to remove the financial barriers, concerning youth, but also concerning association and organization. There is a huge lack of public money and private money in certain topics concerning sport. Obviously, after the 2024 Olympic Games, there is a decreasing amount of money concerning sports. So Erasmus Plus is a key organization to connect with to solve that. Then we have the fact and the matter to engaging locally with student-led association. Maybe this is a huge opportunity. Why? Because local impact is more meaningful for you. It's closer to you, and it shows you strong evidence of your actions, your proper action. When you're involving in European European level, this is maybe a bit tough to understand what is your impact and on what target are you impactful. So maybe local-led initiatives are a good way to solve that. And finally, to solve the problem of recognition, I would like to speak about the development of kind of use path and use pass. There is a lot of initiative, local, private, or public initiative to promote and fostering engagement. And I think that this is a huge part to work on because, as I said, there is a lot of individuals and cultural barriers and differences. But if we can provide and if we can create a common and European unifying way to recognize the volunteers and recognize the commitments and the engagement of youth, maybe it will be a way to know that at the end, someone is taking care of you and at the end, someone is looking after you. And the final words and the final take-home message that I want to show you, this is kind of a recap of what I've mentioned before during these slots. But the first thing I want to highlight is the youth empowerment decision making. We have many opportunities and something that we already know, I guess, that we have to go deeper in. We need so real representation and not a symbolic presence. We need to feel that our voice is legitimate and meaningful and not just because of an electoral slot. We have, as youth, we have to be involved from the start of the decision process and not at the end just to confirm or just to have the validation. And of course, this process should be transparent, accessible, and yes, to not being disengaged because you don't have the proper information. Then around fostering inclusive environments, as I mentioned, there is a huge barrier that we need to focus on. And without that, people still think that youth don't want to engage and youth are not interested in engagement. That's not the case. We have to focus on before. We have to focus on the barriers before engagement. And in that way, we will try to see if this is still a problem of disengagement or if it's like cultural or personal issues. And of course, peer-to-peer approach with popular education and non-hierarchical training is also a good practice to set up because when you want to engage, you feel comfortable with your peer. And if you are in an environment that you don't really know and that with like a professional vision on what you are just engaging voluntary, there is a gap that you need to solve if you want people and if you want youth to get engaged. You have to provide them a safe place to do so. And yeah, proactive outreach also. This is a very bad vision to think that we create a space and we are waiting for youth to come. This is not the way to think the problem, I guess. And finally, the third and final point to focus on and to highlight is to strengthening the youth leadership and youth laws, as I can say, the bottom-up participation and all the opportunities to get in touch with youth and being close to them as local as possible, and then you can provide them with other skills, scale after scales, year after year. But from the beginning, from the scratch, we need the bottom-up participation and student-led project and something very local, very meaningful to next engaging further and deeper. Perfect. And that's it for me. Thank you very much.
Just want to say a massive thank you to Arthur for joining us today. It's interesting that you noticed that youths weren't really engaging with these policies and that you addressed them by embedding the youths directly in the decision-making and the policy making. So thank you again for joining us this morning. So we will now do our first interactive break with Mentimeter. So the screen will come up with a QR code and you can join it via your phone. If you want to, there will be a website there as well, and you can type in the codes. The link to the Mentimeter is also in the chat if you'd like to click on that. So in this interactive session, we will go through 2 different questions. The first one will be a multiple choice, and then the second one, you can write your answer in yourself. So again, you can scan the QR code there with your phone. So the first question is, how important do you think it is to involve youth in sport decision-making roles? Okay, so we see it's very important. A couple of people saying it's important, but it's not vital. Perfect. Okay, we'll move on to the next one, which is, what is the biggest barrier for involving youth in sport leadership? So for this one, it's open to write any answer. Balancing social life and sporting career. Yeah. Trusting the youth, distraction from social media platforms, definitely. Funding, lack of self-confidence, sports hierarchy and politics, bureaucracy, a clear path on how to do that. Time, yeah, time is a big one. Trusting the youth, not so many opportunities. They have other things that they should be doing or they could be doing and have no time. Yeah. So there's a lot of similar themes coming up there. So thank you all for engaging with that session. So we will now move on to our panelist discussions, where we're joined by 5 panelists from diverse backgrounds and interests. So I will introduce the 5 of them individually, and then I will ask all 5 panelists just one question, a little icebreaker. So our first panelist is Olena Kononchuk. Elena is from UActive Ukraine and is also part of TAFISA's Reach Youth Task Force. She is a young professional in digital media and international business, currently working as a sales project manager at Genesis Tech. She collaborates on global media projects and oversees partnerships with leading brands in sports and lifestyle sectors across the African market. Her professional experience includes developing and joint managing projects with major international brands such as Nivea, Visa, Adidas, and Coca-Cola, focusing on sponsorship activation, digital storytelling, and audience engagement. Through these collaborations, Olena has gained a deep understanding of how sport can unite communities, drive inclusion, and serve as a powerful communication platform. As a member of the Reach Youth Task Force, Olena aims to promote sport for all values and empower young people to become changemakers in their communities. Our second panelist today is Elena Mercedes Haro, Lima, the founder of Powerplay Guatemala. She is an IOC Young Leader from 2021 to 2024 and a former member of the Women's Saber National Fencing Team of Guatemala. She holds a master's degree in sports management and a bachelor's degree in international relations. Her long-term goal is to generate transformative change in and through sport to advance both social and economic development goals in Latin America. Our third panelist is Jabu Mtwa from the International Olympic Committee in South Africa. He is an IOC Young Leader, podcaster, and emerging legal professional committed to advancing Africa's sports economy. He is the executive producer and co-host of the Africa Business of Sport podcast, featuring in-depth conversations with executives and administrators from organizations including the IOC, FIFA, CAF, and NBA Africa. Through the podcast, Jabu has helped shape discourse on governance, media rights, sponsorship strategy, youth development, and the role of sport in socio-economic transformation in Africa. As part of the IOC Young Leaders program, he is focused on developing a sport-based social impact initiative centered on youth leadership, career readiness, and employment creation. Through the program, he founded Ituba Letu Sports Hub, a youth-focused non-profit organization that uses sport to tackle youth unemployment across Africa. This sports hub delivers job readiness workshops and career counselling to students, out of school youth, and young professionals seeking pathways in the sports industry. Jabu is deeply passionate about equipping African youth, strengthening sport institutions, and expanding access to meaningful and sustainable career pathways within the African sport ecosystem. Our fourth panelist is Imane El Filali, the Deputy Director of the Territorial Deployment and International Cooperation Division from TIBU Africa, Morocco, a leading organisation in Africa dedicated to driving social innovation and creating sustainable impact through sports. In her role, she oversees the strategic expansion of TIBU Africa's programs across Morocco, ensuring that sport serves as a powerful tool for education, employability, and social inclusion for young people and communities in vulnerable situations. And finally, our last panelist is Lara Mayland, a board member from the youth network No Excuse Slovenia. She is a master's student of public policy and administration, but more importantly, she is a youth worker at No Excuse Slovenia, working with young people to spread awareness and empower them to make healthy choices and sustainable solutions to their own and systemic problems. She is board member of No Excuse for a year and a half and has implemented workshops at a local level that help young people to discover different topics and exercise their own agency as they help co-create the spaces and sessions. Recently, she was Slovenia's youth delegate at the WHO Regional Conference in Copenhagen and a speaker at the second annual Youth Climate Diplomacy Forum Conference under the UNESCO Climate Diplomacy Chair in Athens. So welcome all our 5 panelists today, and thank you all for joining us. So the first thing I'd like to do is we can open up the floor to anyone to answer is, do you recall your first memory being involved in sport? And do you remember your first instance of involved in sport from a decision-making perspective? And how did that differ? Yeah, Olena?
Yeah, Tara, thank you so much for introduction. And I found this question pretty interesting to me because I remember like the earliest moments when I was involved in sport. That was probably when I was a kid, and that was there was no competition in this sport. That was just fun, spontaneous, and it wasn't about performance. It was more about belonging to the community, having friends and having fun. And of course, time when I became a decision maker in sports field, it came much later when I actually got this position and started to work in media, especially sports media, working with sports projects and sports sponsorships. And from this point of view, I actually found that sport was not just a game and was not just a business. It was also about communication, empowerment, and also about social impact. I'm actually really trying to engage sports sponsors to our charity initiatives and things like that, and they are quite eager to participate. So when I was a child, I experienced sport like emotionally, and now I see it more strategically because sport can actually do an impact and like the whole social impact, community impact, and influence people's life. But all these aspects, they matters so much.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing, Olena. Mercedes?
Yeah. So for me, actually, what got me thinking about this question was that you asked how one experience is different from the other. So of course, I thought about my first memories in sports. Mostly, I relate to when I started doing, sports professionally, and I was a high-level athlete. And then the thing with this is that my experience as an athlete built up in me this idea that I needed to get involved into sports decision making because I was, seeing the reality that a lot of athletes have to face, a lot of the hardships, a lot of the challenges and barriers that, we were mentioning now since the beginning and that everyone was typing in. So I said, there has to be a way for me to change this, like if it was difficult for me, I want it to be easier for others that are wanting to engage in this road. So this is what I like, about the question, as Olena was saying. Also, it's very different. You think more strategically, you think about other things rather than, when you're actually doing the sports. But in my case, one built up to the next one. And I think that was very, powerful, and what really got me started into this whole, sports involvement career after, just doing sports.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. There's definitely two sides to sport and physical activity. One is taking part, and then the other side is all the decision making, everything else that comes with sports. So thank you both for sharing. So my first question is for Lara. The European Observatory on Sport Employment paints an alarming picture of youth volunteering in sport in their latest report, Sports Volunteering in Europe, Realities, Opportunities and Challenges. Youth appear to be underrepresented in all volunteering opportunities. What unique challenges or barriers do young people face in embracing leadership, governance and decision-making roles?
Well, first of all, thanks so much for having me. And to answer the question, I think we sort of went over that with the Mentimeter quite a lot, because time and just the opportunity to join these positions and to have the time to actually do something alongside schools and jobs and so on is a huge barrier for young people, because we barely have time to do sports ourselves, like to just move our bodies a little bit, let alone to then try and be a part of the decision-making process. It's very difficult without a wider support system and the opportunities to get you there. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. My next question then is for Olena. So what role can schools, local communities and sports organisations play in removing the barriers and challenges for youth engagement?
Well, I think that all three of them, they form generally the ecosystem of youth engagement. Schools, they create early positive experience. As I mentioned, kids, they are not focused on maybe competition. It's more about enjoyment, inclusion, and confidence. Local communities, they can make sport accessible by providing safe places, low-cost opportunities, cheap opportunities, and maybe programs shaped together with young people. That would be ideally. By the way, this role is extremely important for Ukraine during the war, because we are trying to create a lot of safe places where people could spend time and don't be afraid that they can be in danger. And sports organizations, they the strongest structures, I guess, and they generally can influence more widely. They can open leadership pathways. They can adapt in their communication to youth, and making youth engaged into decision makers making processes. So yeah, I feel they all three, they should act together to help young professionals, young people generally participate in sport.
Thank you, Olena. My next question is for Imane. Could you share some insights about TIBU Africa's national platform for young volunteers in sport, recently launched in Morocco?
Thank you so much, Sarah. Yes, of course. About the National Platform for Young Volunteers in Sports, it's designed to transform youth motivation into structured opportunity for youth in Morocco. Its goal is to build a national pool of 40,000 trained volunteers by 2029, with 10,000 volunteers per year, while promoting inclusion, employability, and active citizenship. The strength of the platform lies in its clear volunteer pathway. It starts with 30 hours of online training, focusing on volunteering values, communication, event organization, safety, and inclusion, followed by certifications, of course. This is complemented by 3 days of in-person training, covering public speaking, leadership, group management, and emotional intelligence. Youth then move into a real field experience, supporting national and regional sports events in roles such as logistics, coordination, and animation. Of course, they get to choose whichever department or whichever field they want to volunteer in, based on their experience and desires, of course. In parallel, the platform includes a digital space with a full-year national calendar of sports events across Morocco, allowing volunteers to plan, choose, and register according to their interests. Through training, experience, and recognition, the platform transforms volunteering into a meaningful pathway for youth engagement and development.
Brilliant, thank you, Imane. We have something similar in Limerick with the Limerick Sports Partnership. It's called the Volunteer-Inspired Participation Programme for transition year students in school. So it'd be very similar about the education and training them up and then giving back volunteering hours then as well. So thank you for sharing. My next question is for Jabu. You co-founded Golden City Football Club in 2022 at the age of 20. How did this initiative start?
With a dream, to be honest. I think that's the biggest thing, because at 20 years old, it's not a time in your life where you have a lot of disposable income to have fun, or in this case, to even start a business. So for us, it was trying to see how we can have an impact on our community through sport. My co-founder and I went to high school together, and we always thought about ways in which we can use sport to empower youth within our community, because there was a huge issue of youth unemployment, and you find a lot of young people going stray and going into distractions and destructive habits. And we thought to ourselves, how can we create a football club within the community that essentially acts as a safe haven for young people who are not in school or who don't have a job to come and play football? So that's how it started, and with a lot of courage between myself and my co-founder, a lot of savings as well, because we had to fund this entire operation through our own pockets. And mind you, we're university students at the point, so having to use the little money we get from our bursaries or stipends and putting that all together was a challenge, I must say, but it was very fruitful. It really made us think about ways in which we can do a lot with a little. So learning about how to use resources when there's not a lot of them is a big skill that I got from the time. And, you know, for me, the impact that it had at the time on the community, on the young people that were part of the football club and the academy that we built was truly rewarding. And it's an experience I'd absolutely do again.
Well done. I think it's really interesting that you said that you don't need a lot to start. You know, you can start with little or nothing. So thank you for sharing. So for Mercedes, does your organization have youth representation mechanisms? Example being youth councils, committees, or boards within governance structures, decision-making processes, or the organization's policies?
Yes. So actually, my initiative through my organization is called Talento en Movimiento. It is still a growing initiative, but youth representation is intentionally embedded in the whole decision-making process. There is no council itself, but we make sure that we involve the youth from an early point, you know, to try to get their interests. We try to see what kind of like sports they are interested in doing or in learning. And this is how we first developed the sports curriculum that we're going to give. The idea is that we are going to, you know, give them something that they like so that they can remain involved. So we try to get, you know, feedback from them. We do co-design exercises about some of the activities. We try to really get their insights, and it's very important to provide a safe space for them, you know, to tell you what are they enjoying about the activities that they're doing, if there is something that could be improved. So there is a constant feedback from them even throughout the, you know, the delivery of the activities, which is very important. And the second one, and I think that is very meaningful, is the peer leadership development. We try to have not only like the main coach that is directing the activities, but to try to identify those that might be interested in taking a more of a leadership role, and then try to help them develop their skills so that they can continue these activities. You know, it's also about the sustainability after the project ends, so that they can continue to do it, because this is youth that is going to remain in the community, and they can continue to do these activities by themselves with other groups of youth and remain engaged. So having this, you know, kind of like youth that we identified, or they want to volunteer, or they want to take the role into like an extra step, we help them, with the tools and some additional training. So again, that they can become these leaders or coaches themselves, that they can continue to do this. So I think also that's very important because it gives them the opportunity to explore themselves also in a leadership role. So that's very important on how we try to include youth from the very beginning.
Thank you. I think there's one theme that's going across everyone that spoke so far, and that it's like a safe space for these youths to come, especially with dropout rates and stuff, that it is a safe space for everyone to be involved, and that there is a pathway for where they come in to kind of see them grow in that space. So Lara, my next question is for you. What are specific strategies that go beyond simple words to increase youth engagement and participation in the civic society?
So I think what's very important, and what's sort of a unique perspective, let's say, from No Excuse, because everyone else here seems to be from a very sports-centered background, and I'll be very honest, I'm not. But No Excuse Slovenia is a youth organization that deals with health, right? So sports isn't, to me, at least when I was growing up, it was a very intimidating, it was hard, it was difficult. After I sort of fell out of training every day or every other day for a sport that my parents signed me up for, it was very difficult to get back into sports. And it felt like this big, difficult thing, right? To start doing again, because it was hard and it was tiring and my, muscles hurt and who wants to do that? But the No Excuse brought a more health perspective into it, because while I know that it's good for you, right? And while most people know, like, reasonably and logically that sports is good for you, you also need to understand that it's a very very rounded approach. You have to understand that sports isn't just good for you for your physical health, it's good for your mental health. It improves your self-confidence, your self-image, and having these tools and this different look at it, not just you have to do sports every day, you have to move your body, that you hear as the regular advice a lot from parents and grandparents. They'll just say you have to move your body. It can be difficult to start because you have to do something, right? And there's a little part of our brains that doesn't want to do what we're told to do. But when you're given the tools to understand how it affects you, how sports helps with your physical health, why it helps with your mental health, why it's important not to just move your body, but engage your brain in what you're doing and being mindful about your movement and how you spend your time, and being mindful about how you think about yourself while you're doing sports, in this very rounded, I'll say a bit more mentally challenging as well, approach to restarting sports, if you've, let's say, fallen out of it for a while, is a great way to sort of engage people to start doing sports again, because that's what happens, at least in Slovenia, a lot, that people will do sports regularly for years and years and years, and they'll get to high school and college and they'll stop doing sports because they're not in some sort of competitive kids league or a performance thing, and they'll just stop doing it because they don't have the time and they don't have the money to pay for it themselves. So giving these ins of okay, you have to first of all understand the whole framework of it's good for you for all these different reasons, and having a very easy in of all you have to do is take a few steps today, and then you can take a few more steps tomorrow. And this easy I'll hold your hand sort of approach is much more encouraging for a lot of young people, I think.
That's really insightful. Thank you very much, Lara. Olena, there can be a lot of pressure placed on organizations, but are there actions and strategies that youth can use to get access to decision-making positions?
That's actually a nice one. Yeah, I think that, of course, I'll be talking from, point of view of Ukrainian context. That's what I know really good. So for us, there is a really big problem that if we talk about students as part of the youth group, unfortunately, our sports education, it is so limited. We only have one basic sports education program across all the universities. We don't do sports managers. We don't do sports psychologists. We just do, like coaches. And then if you wish, you can decide where to go and what to do. But that's how we have really, we have a problem where to find volunteers. Like our organizations have a problem where to find volunteers, because there may be a lot of other youth that would be interested to participate, but they don't know how. And generally there is little advertisement again from organizations, but are they obliged to advertise so much? Yeah, this is the question. So I'd say that youth, they have to do, like, they can be studying. A lot of young people are getting the bachelor degree in Ukraine. So if they study anything else, not sports, they can still go to sports organization and participate. Yes, maybe organizations, they don't have sometimes resources to advertise themselves, but you can do some research and go there. I actually was the one who didn't know how to participate in sports projects, but then I did some research. We have, for example, in Ukraine, we have Klitschko Foundation. So Klitschko, that's pretty famous Ukrainian sportsman, and he founded a charity organization where they help young people to get volunteering experience in sports, and that's perfect opportunity. And they are mainly focused only on youth with no other background, so only youth. So yeah, you can go there, you can give your ideas, you can show initiative, and that's how you will participate. Because simply waiting for ads somewhere that this organization will advertise themselves, sometimes they just don't have resource for that, but at the same time they suffer because they don't have enough human resources. They need these volunteers. So yeah, that's the best strategy, is just research and do actions.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I do agree that youths need to be proactive in researching themselves to find what they are interested in. Not everything will just fall into your lap, unfortunately, So thank you very much. Imane, my next question is for you. How can you successfully recruit youth for your organization's activities, and what is the secret to having access to youth these days?
Thank you. So my answer will be, at TIBU Africa, recruiting youth has never been about one single program. It's about offering pathways that respond to different needs and stages of life. Today, through our organization, more than 300,000 young people have benefited from all of our programs, which gives us a very strong connection with youth on the ground. We reach young people through diverse entry points, programs for children, youth, girls only, educational sports centers, different sports disciplines from football, basketball to tennis to taekwondo, entrepreneurship programs, leadership courses, and certified training programs, national conferences, and even international exposure through training and mobility abroad. Because of this diversity, young people can join TIBU in many ways as participants, volunteers, trainees, or future leaders, and they can also go through all of these phases together, depending on where they are in their journey. Recruitment also works because we are physically present in communities, schools, universities, at the same time, very active on digital platforms, which is how we can reach our generation right now, the youth. Youth already knows us, trusts us, and see us as role models in our community who look like them. Finally, young people stay engaged because they see continuity, they see impact, they know that one experience can lead to another, from participants to volunteering to leadership or professional opportunities also. In short, our secret is not just reaching youth, but growing with them. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing. My next question is for Jabu. Do you think you received the relevant support, assistance, or training to embark on that journey at such a young age? And what kind of support would you have needed?
Well, Tara, I wouldn't want to say we didn't receive any support, because in Africa there's a saying that says it always takes a village for you to achieve anything. I wouldn't want to say that we didn't receive support, but it was very, very minimal, very minimal. Between my co-founder and I, we did almost everything from even registering the football club, getting the balls, getting the equipment, recruiting coaches, organizing a field in which we could hold our training sessions and our matches. So it was, I must say, a two-man show quite a lot. Even that extends to financial support. We had to fund this ourselves as university students as well. So I would probably answer the question the other way, or your second part of your question, as to what support would have been really valuable for us. And number one, I would say training, because I mean we were two 20-year-olds who were about to finish their degrees in university and had zero business experience. So training that had to do with making us understand how to run a business, how to run a sports-specific business, which it was in our case, how to manage finances, how to be compliant with all the legal requirements that might be available to us. For example, when we want to play games, we need to have an application to have an event, for example. These are things that we didn't know. So training would have been really helpful to just build our capacity and give us the skills that we needed to do this really well. Secondly, financial support. I think apart from very few programs globally here and there that have to do with sports for development, like the ISC Young Leaders Program for one, there is a paucity of financial sources for young people to leverage in order to build up their own social projects that use sports to tackle whatever community issue they might be facing. So, you know, you have the IOC Young Leaders Program, you have, you know, other funds and programs here and there. But I think if we have more of those sources of funding and opportunities for young people to receive finance and then apply it to their ideas, I think that would be a massive, massive help to what is a big barrier. I think finances, from every speaker that has spoken right now, there's an indirect acknowledgement that the lack of finances can be very difficult for young people trying to build their own initiatives. So I'd say training, number one, as I said, and then financial support would be the second one.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So I'm just going to move quickly along. We have a couple more questions. I'm just conscious of the time. So the next question is for Mercedes. It's shown in the Eurobarometer 545 survey on youth and democracy 2024, sports clubs are the preferred space for young people's participation in society. There's a clear disconnect between the existing and the desired situation for youth when it comes to sport engagement from a decision-making approach. What are the key recommendations for ensuring volunteers are truly engaged in their role and create inclusive environments rather than just ticking a box?
I think it's very similar to what everyone has been saying about the opportunities that are available for them whenever they engage in this type of volunteer opportunities. So the first one for me, I would say, is like having clear roles and expectations, whether they're going to get a certification, whether they're going to get some funding, they're going to get some, experience, create a university. They need to understand what their role is and what they're going to gain from this. It's not like you volunteer because you want to get something out of it, but it is great because, as we're saying, youth have very limited time and they want to engage in so many things, or they have to engage in so many things at the same time. Then it's good for them to know that they are getting, a little bit of something, even if it's just very simple, like, setting up, I think, like medium and long-term goals of what their role as a volunteer is about, what they're doing, what they're going to get, what they're gaining, and most importantly also for them to visualize and see how what they're doing is really helping contribute to a larger goal. Because sometimes volunteers, they take on different roles, and it's hard for them to visualize how they're really impacting sometimes something larger, or they get, disappointed, or they feel like their job is not making a difference. But it's not like that. Without them, it would not be possible to achieve so many things in the larger spectrum. So I think it's very important for them to have this clear role, these clear expectations. And one thing that is also very important, I think, is having the community buying on it, because at the end, their communities is kind of like the base that supports them and encourage them. For example, as a parent, you want to have the parents know what their children are doing to try to encourage them, be more flexible with them. They can share this with, younger siblings, younger friends, it kind of like becomes like a cascade also, but also for them to be recognized in their communities as, someone that is contributing, and then they can be seen by other members in the community, like teachers, for example. Sometimes they have a lot of like homework or activities that they need to do. If they see this as an extra curriculum activity, they might be more flexible into allowing time off, or giving some credit for this. So I think not forgetting about the community that is surrounding this youth is also very important to ensure that they remain engaged and that actually encourage them to be there. So I would think these are two key components.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Mercedes. Moving on then is a question for Lara. What is the specific role and nature of youth for co-creating positive change?
I think it goes back to the whole idea of youth are the future, because we are, and everyone knows how time works. And it's important to involve youth in co-creating the future, because we're the ones who are going to experience most of it from the generations that are currently alive. And we're the ones who will be leading it and giving it forward to the generations that aren't yet alive. So it's important to involve young people to have this continuity. A lot of the times we talk about this historical memory, right? But you can't, and respecting your elders because they have this experience, but you can't build the experience in a historical memory and this legacy if you don't involve young people so that they can then build their legacy and build our historical memory and keep what's currently happening in rotation, in knowledge, to pass it on to next generations. Because if you just stick with 40, 50-year-old people making the decisions now, and then they do that for 20 years and retire when they're 60, 70, and then there's a huge gap that happens, right? There's a cutoff, and then people forget, and best practices that maybe were good get forgotten and then stumble, and there's a dip in efficiency, or there can be a huge dip in efficiency. So involving young people not only keeps this historic memory alive, but also keeps the efficiency going and involves the actual perspective of people who you're doing the programs for, right? Because if you're making youth programs and if you want young people to be active and sporty because you want a healthy and happy population, then you need to involve the people you're trying to activate in how you're making it happen.
Thank you. Imane, when empowering youth as active contributors to the Sport for All movement, it is important to foster their leadership and ownership. What other qualities has your organisation identified as essential for youth to develop?
Of course, leadership is very important, but beyond leadership, what truly empowers youth are the skills they develop through experience. And the bonds mean basically emotional bonds created through making impact and the recognition they get once they achieve something or help someone. We focus on communication, especially teamwork and responsibility, because sports requires coordination and reliability. Speaking the same language is also very important. And by that, I mean on a cultural level, knowing the environment and culture and taking into consideration how or where people grew or where people are from is how you can get through to them, to each their language. And adaptability, of course, risk assessments and problem solving are crucial, as sports field and sports environments are very dynamic and you have to always expect the unexpected. We also emphasize on emotional intelligence and respect, which is essential when working with diverse communities, diverse age range as well, and taking into consideration, of course, the psychology and mental health as well. These qualities prepare young people not only to volunteer, but to become long-term contributors to their communities and to the Sport for All movement. Thank you.
Thank you, Imane. My last question then is for Jabu. Is there any recommendation you make for youngsters who are motivated but feel that they are missing the tools for creating impactful Sport for All initiatives?
I'll go back to my initial answer where I spoke about the challenge that my co-founder and I had of doing a lot with a little. And I think that would be the message from me, that you don't really need a lot to start your initiative. You can start very small. You don't need a lot of money. Sometimes you don't even need money. And what you need, as Mercedes mentioned, is community buy-in. Because if your community is buying into your initiative, then it's very easy for you to be able to source volunteers. It'll be very easy for you to source a space in which you can play a sport, like a field in your community. So that community buy-in, I definitely reinforce that point. It's super important and probably one of the most important tools that young people have in starting out initiatives. So it's not all about having the actual finances to start an initiative. I think you have to start with purpose. That's very important. Why you're doing what you're doing. And your community has to be built around your project, because if they are not built into the design and delivery of your project or your idea, then it becomes very difficult to engage the people around you.
Thank you very much. I would just like to take a second to thank all of our panelists for joining us today. Oh, never mind. I have one more question. Sorry. So this is for everyone to answer, so anyone can answer. Why is it important to act and adopt policies that involve youth in Sport for All decision making? And what is the opportunity cost we are missing by not doing it? So anyone can answer if they want.
I think what Lara mentioned, like youth is the future, will be the main takeaway from this. Because if we don't make sure the youth is involved from now, then we cannot expect things to change and systems will continue to work in the same way. Because they need to grow into these steps, like take on this leadership role so that they can change and improve things. And then later on, other youth, can also follow in. So I think for me, this is the most important thing, like capacity building for the youth so that they can take on these leadership roles and grow into them and really transform things and how to take. Most importantly, I think we need to think about like how what they learn through sports can be taken into different areas of their lives, whether it's work, whether it's family, take all these lessons outside from the sporting field. I think is what will make the change in the long term.
Thank you. Would any other panelists like to add to that?
Yeah, I would like to add. Like I said before, this idea of history and future, and young people being the future, but also if we don't involve young people in decision making about sports and about anything else, they don't get the confidence to do it, and therefore they don't get to take the risk of stepping into these opportunities. And if we don't involve young people in sports, if we don't involve them in the decision making behind sports, they won't find sports interesting. It won't develop into a habit, into this like general healthy lifestyle. And then if we lose young people in sports fields, we'll have huge health risks, because that's the basis. It's not just fun and a very safe community, but it's also the basis of having like a good and healthy life, and a good healthy lifestyle is to do sports, to have some sort of sports in your life. So if we don't involve young people in this, then we're not involving young people in health. We're not involving young people in making the decisions for their health, not giving them the opportunities, or giving ourselves the opportunities to be healthy in a good, happy, healthy, safe, communal way. So the biggest risk is to our health, I would say.
Thank you. So again, I would just like to take a second to thank all of the panelists for joining us today and sharing their stories and insights into the various aspects of the TAFISA Mission 2030. So thank you again. We will now move into our second interactive session with Mentimeter. So here there will be 2 questions, and again, it will show up on screen. So the first one is, do you believe your organization, do you believe your organization provides a friendly and inclusive environment for youth to feel empowered? So there's 3 options here. Yes, no, or not sure. Is it allowing people to vote? Okay, we might try and get the answers up there. So 29 have said yes. Some people are still voting. Not sure. Okay. Perfect. We will move on to the next question. So there's 3 options for the answers here. So how is youth represented in your governing bodies? Okay, it's not represented. It might be after this webinar. We might start looking at it. Youth Council, Youth Commission, and Youth Boards. Okay, it's good to see that there is youth represented in those governing bodies. Perfect. Okay, so as we move into the second half of the webinar, I would like to introduce the REACH project. The REACH project is TAFISA's response to innovatively address this topic and unlock the potential that young individuals bring. By bridging the gap between youth aspirations and the current practices of Sport for All organisations, REACH aims to foster a dynamic and inclusive environment where youth are not just participants, but key contributors at every step of the Sport for All journey. This project advocates for a transformative shift in perspective, emphasising the importance of engaging youth as beneficiaries, active collaborators, and leaders in shaping the future of Sport for All. REACH is a call for sport organisations and senior administrators to address this renovation and take accountability for their role in supporting youth through dedicated mentorship, concrete collaboration, and accommodating opportunities. Here to speak to us about the REACH project, we have 2 members of the REACH Youth Task Force. First, we have Masahiro Mori, a graduate student and member of the REACH Youth Task Force representing the Sasakawa Sports Foundation in Japan, alongside other youth members worldwide who are driving the global Sport for All movement. He is currently pursuing a master's degree in sport and Olympic studies at the University of Tsukuba. As the founder of the Lacrosse for Development initiative, he promotes lacrosse as an educational and social tool through the Green Cup programme. Rooted in the sport's indigenous heritage and spirit of teamwork, his activities empower young people and integrate environmental education in Tanzania. So I'd like to introduce Masa to present a little bit about it first, and then I will introduce the second speaker.
Okay, thank you, Tara, for having me. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Masa from Japan, and today me and Guillaume will introduce about our Rich Youth Task Force project. Nice to see you.
Tara, your microphone is off.
Thank you. So the second speaker from the Reach Youth Task Force is Guillaume Cobat, representing ANESTAPS France. He holds a master's degree in digital and sports sciences after completing community service with the Brittany League of University Sport. He spent a year at INSEP in a research lab, turning data into practical insights for athletes and coaches. Last year, he launched his own association and hosted a road race that welcomed 750 runners. He is now completing a work-study master's in sports events management with his athletic club, CJF Saint Malo, where he focuses on creating bigger, better events that elevate the athlete experience and strengthen community ties. Both Masa and Guillaume will now present on the REACH project.
Thank you, Tara. Masa, I leave you share your screen. Hi, everybody. I will present to you the REACH project. So what does REACH means? It means reshaping engagement, advocacy, and capacity building for youth in sport for all. We'll see in first time the background and a little introduction, then the project goals. After that, the target group and youth task force activities, and finally, the impact, the opportunities, and the sustainability. So the REACH project, it's an initiative designed to empower young people across all Europe and beyond by increasing their participation in volunteer, leadership, and decision-making roles within the Sport for All movement. So we saw that there is a huge decline in sport and physical activity participation rates among the youth. And so there is a really pressing need to address the alarming lack of youth representation and participation in sport for all. The REACH project, it's a 2 years project from 2025 to 2026 with 10 project partners and 2 associated partners. And we are 15 youth representatives from a lot of different countries, and you can see all of us on this beautiful picture. Now, what are the goals? The first one is to ensure quality and relevant deliverables are developed for REACH target group through effective project management and coordination. Then it's to conduct needs analysis and research to create an evidence-based youth engagement charter through strategy reviews and youth-focused workshops, surveys, and focus groups. It's also important to empower youth and sport for all organizations to enhance skills and create change through capacity buildings and mentorship. The goal is also to implement youth-led community actions to boost youth involvement, producing 9 videos, reports, and good practice collection. And finally, there will be communication and dissemination plan with clear KPIs to measure reach, engagement, and impact, plus a website and video showcasing the project journey and the results.
Hey, let me change to the speaker. And on this slide, you can see the diversity of our REACH Youth Task Force members. 12 representatives from Europe, 1 from France, Ireland, Estonia, Slovenia, Italy, and Ukraine, and other 3 partners from outside of Europe. Canada, Morocco, and me from Japan. This global mix allows us to exchange our ideas, understand different challenges for sports for all, and find out these solutions together. This page outlines our actions as a youth task force. First, on the bottom line, our youth engagement charter will provide strategic principles for sports organizations, focusing on creating inclusive, safe, and attractive environment for young people. And next layer is youth mentorship program and charter. We have mentors from our organizations for each youth task force members. And we have 16-month mentorship program to design and implement community actions. And as we attended for the TAFISA CLC course in Poitiers, France last October. And we have 2 days course to finish. And next year in Prague, we have another CLC2 course for youth task force us and other 90 youth members selected. And finally, the community actions will be conducted by our members, and we will implement 9 community projects. And as Guillaume said, we have to submit reports, videos, and these monitoring and evaluations for future replicable practices. And here we highlight the long-term outcomes expected from each REACH project. One major impact is through succeed, supporting communities' empowerment and development through sports for all. One youth task force members will continue their involvement by joining the Succeed committee. And second one is TAFISA Commission. We will become a permanent TAFISA Youth Commission to keep our actions. And in terms of advocacy and policy, partners organizations will integrate the projects, their programs, and encourage other sports for all organizations. On the financial side, we aim for a diversification of funding, making sure future youth-focused actions more sustainable. And dissemination is come from KESCAV, Online Hub, and other collaborations through the partnership of other stakeholders. And what opportunities we can get is first knowledge sharing. You gain access to expertise, tools, and best practices from international partners and mentors, and skill development and benchmarking policy implementation. You'll gain insights into how youth engagement strategies can influence policies in sports for all organizations and network building. And through these actions, we can create like social inclusion and empowered communities. To close, I want to thank all organizations and other youth task force members and partners to support us. And I hope we can create inclusive and safe and empowered communities through this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Masa and Guillaume. So to finish out today's webinar, we will hear from the Youth Task Force about their community actions. So everyone will present individually.
So, hello everyone, I'm Alisa and I will present you my project called Bodyful Lab Slovenia that I'm doing in collaboration with Sports Union Slovenia and my lovely mentor Anna Glabac and of course TAFISA. So in Slovenia, we're seeing a pattern where depression rates have doubled and also the suicidal thoughts are rising in the young individuals, while still young sports professionals have no or almost no training on how stress and emotional states shape our behavior, movement, and also participation itself in the sports environment. So the main aim of this project would be to equip future sports professionals with the foundational skills to recognize stress-related bodily responses and emotions, and to be able to create safer and more inclusive sports for all environments. And we will achieve this through 3 two-hour workshops that will be conducted at the Faculty of Sports and will combine theory, guided movement, and reflection. We will also provide some curriculum materials, practical tools, and reflective worksheets for the students of kinesiology and sports, and they will be able to use that in the future with their sports participants. And the short-term impact would be for them to gain literacy in stress responses, bodily cues, and inclusive coaching, and long-term, a more inclusive, resilient, and human-centered sports for all culture in Slovenia. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone, my name is Chloe O'Dwyer and I'm delighted to present on behalf of Tara Mannix and myself on our project from the University of Limerick, the Sport for All Expo Day. Our vision is simple: to bring the people of Limerick together, people of all ages, backgrounds and abilities, through one inclusive, accessible and interactive event. This one-day expo designed to showcase everything Sport for All has to offer. By bringing national governing bodies, local sports clubs and community members into one central space, we make it easier than ever for people to discover opportunities to get active within the Limerick region. Our goal is to build lasting engagement by creating clear, welcoming pathways from the expo directly into clubs and organisations across the city and county. On the day, we will host information stands, taster sessions and opportunities to meet NGBs, local sports organisations and community groups. This responds to a real need in Limerick. Many people want to be more physically active, but struggle to find unified, accessible information about where or how to get started. With support from the REACH programme, our aim is to create a sustainable, replicable model that increases awareness, boosts participation levels, and strengthens the culture of collaboration between communities and clubs, laying the foundation for long-term inclusive participation in sport.
Hello everyone again. My project is called Luck Seed. It's about capacity building program for young leaders in regional Japan through lacrosse and its heritage. There are some barriers in Japan. There is inequality between urban areas and rural areas for accessibility especially for minor sports like lacrosse, and rising sports costs blocked sports participation from young generations, and digital leisure also avoid people to join for the sports. So this program will give insights for young leaders, gain skills and ownerships to promote their favorite sports. Thank you.
Shelly Roddy, and I'll be talking about the Ready Fit Try project through Sport for Life Canada. Ready Fit Try is a month-long initiative designed to inspire people of all ages and abilities across Canada to try a new sport or physical activity. Through the month of April, people will receive a bingo card delivered through social media with a daily challenge to try a new sport or physical activity in their home or community. Daily challenges will be accompanied by a short video shared online, created in support with our partner organizations. People are encouraged to do the activity and share their experience on social media to complete the bingo card and for a chance to win a prize. Ultimately, the goal is to help people discover a new sport or activity and combat the challenge of low participation rates, exploring what sport opportunities exist and sharing how individuals can get involved. Bingo card aims to build confidence and spark long-term participation in sport and physical activity.
Hello everyone, my name is Noor and I'm very happy to present Generation in Motion. So Generation in Motion focuses on strengthening connection between young people and older adults through sport and movement. As you can see on the slide, we do this through three main actions. First of all, join sport workshops where kids and seniors move and play together through simple and adapted activities. Second of all, fun and creative exchange, including games, challenges, and cooperative activities that help build trust and interactions. And third of all, monthly meetup events, which create long-term community bonds beyond the session. And these actions have a lead to key benefits. They help strengthen social bonds, improve physical and mental well-being for both generations, and encourage the sharing of experiences. Where seniors pass on knowledge and young people bring energy and creativity and leadership. With Generation in Motion, we aim to make sport a bridge between generations and a tool for inclusion and community building. Thank you so much.
Hello everyone, I'm Kenneth and I'm in group with Adam and we're representing Estonia Sports for Lara Association, and our group project is urban orienteering on Tallinn Maritime Days, which is one of the leading summer events in the capital. Every year it brings like thousands of people to the seaplane harbor, and ranging from local families to international visitors. And we believe this massive popularity and mixed audience presents an ideal opportunity for Sports for Lara event, what is designed to get people moving outside of traditional sports facilities. And to leverage this potential, we integrate urban orienteering into the festival program in July 2026. And it's designed specially for everyday festival visitors, and our goal is to offer simple, free, and playful way to increase physical activity from families with children to seniors, allowing participants to compete it at their own pace without any pressure to competition.
Hi again. I'm pleasant to tell you more about Ukrainian project. So our project strengthens the well-being of families of people with autism spectrum disorder by using simple and accessible physical activity. In Ukraine, these families often face high stress and limited support. So we focus not on therapy, but on helping the whole family stay active, connected, and resilient. Together with coaches, parents, and ASD specialists, we will co-create practical, easy-to-use materials and tools that fit everyday life. A community festival will allow families to try adapted activities and give coaches hands-on experience with family-based methods. Afterwards, online groups will keep families and professionals engaged, supported, and learning from each other. This project builds sustainable, inclusive networks that make movement part of daily life, helping families feel stronger, healthier, and less alone. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Flaminia, and I'm part of the TAFISA Youth Task Force, but from the Italy partner. The core issue that Sophia and I focused on was that Italy is one of the oldest countries in the world, right after Japan. But beneath that number lies the other pressing issue of the profound social isolation that affects both seniors and youth. And this loneliness is often exacerbated in rural areas. So for our community action, that is called Meet and Move, we hope to find a simple and hopefully powerful solution. We want to use sport and recreational physical activity as a relation tool and bring together these two generations using adapted traditional games and movement. We aim to involve at least 30 participants, 15 seniors and 15 youth, in an intergenerational day in a rural area in the north of Italy, providing benefits both for physical activity and social connection for both age groups. And these social connections will lead to, hopefully, to friendships that will be nurtured in the future as well. And the Meet and Move community action is committed to somehow show how the world how movement can be a catalyst for community resilience and a cultural shift towards genuine intergenerational relations and fairness.
Hello, my name is Alice, and I'm happy to present the Physical Literacy Day in Bordeaux. With Guillaume, we want to develop a day where professional sport teachers, for example, can attend a roundtable discussion with other professionals on the topic of physical literacy. The aim is to teach them what physical literacy is and how to apply it for. During this day, children will be able to take part in fun sports activities, combining two objectives, introducing them to physical literacy and, in the same time, showing their teacher how these activities can be implemented in practice. Physical Literacy Day is a regional adaptation of the EduSport Festival organized by the ANESTAPS in France in 2025.
So thank you all for your great insights into your initiatives, and we can't wait to see how these are developed and are looking forward to its impact. So there has been some questions added to the chat box that I'd just like to raise. So these questions are for the panelists. So the first one is how to deal with the argument of lack of experience when it comes to strategic decision finding processes. So any of the panelists can unmute themselves and answer if they want. I'll leave that question for a second and see if anyone wants to answer. And the second question then is, in the US, in what we call sports-based youth development, there is the challenge of finding ways to offer youth a variety of sports to take so youth can find what they enjoy. Is there anyone else doing this in any other countries?
I can tell about Ukrainian experience. Actually, sports, generally volunteering in sports, it became more and more popular during the years. And one of the recent programs that was pretty public, it was about diversifying different sport activities in schools, and even public people take take part in this, and that was an interesting insight that we have too much football in school schedule, because everybody knows how to play football, but there are so many interesting games, so many interesting activities that kids just didn't try. And it actually gives more opportunities for girls in sport, because they feel somehow like cut off from all these more like boys physical activities. So I'm really happy that we are moving with diversifying and more inclusive activities.
Thank you, Elena. I think it's important for youths, if they don't know what sports are out there, that you can try and organise maybe taster sessions and stuff for sports that they may not be used to, like frisbee or lacrosse, or in Ireland, like we wouldn't do lacrosse. So that could be a good taster session, So there's just another kind of way of avoiding that challenge. So thank you all for sharing your input today, and I would like to leave a few messages just before we wrap it up. So the next webinar will be held in February 2026 with the topic of partnering researchers, practitioners and policymakers, advancing sport for all together. So the registration for the next webinar will be opening soon, so please make sure to stay tuned by following TAFISA on social media, and we hope to see you soon. Again, the webinar will be posted on the TAFISA website and on the TAFISA YouTube. So thank you all for coming.